Hello, and welcome to Plan Your Professional Development. I'm Khadija Carr.
And I'm Ann Oti.
We're coming to you from AmeriCorps Vista headquarters in Washington, D.C., and today we are assisted by Scott and Dave from Ed Northwest. You'll see them in the chat and the Q&A to assist you during the session.
Thank you to all of you who have been posting to the chat question about the goal you hope to accomplish during your year of service. It's great to see such positive and professional goals, and also to recognize that you are commenting on ways you want to grow as well as fulfill the duties of your VAD. You may have joined VISTA to become involved in anti-poverty causes or to learn about nonprofit management. Perhaps you saw an opportunity to become a better public speaker or to help a specific community that is meaningful to you.
This session shows you how to make the most out of your service so that while you are building capacity in the community, you are also building your own capacity. The VISTA program offers a range of resources to support your professional development, so we want to let you know what's available to you. In this session, we'll help you plan for your professional development and point you to resources to make that happen. During PSO, you learn some of the basics of understanding your VAD, identifying skills you will need to accomplish your VAD, and navigating the Vista campus. Now comes the fun part. It's time to take your initial thoughts and turn them into an action plan. Here's our agenda for today. We'll start by looking at the individual development plan as a tool for your ongoing learning. Then, we'll explore 4 areas relevant to Vista service. We'll show you a range of useful resources on the Vista campus and on lots of other sites. And then, we'll see what questions you have. Throughout today's presentation, we'll have opportunities for you to participate. If this works for everyone, I'll ask Ann to start us off.
Thanks, Khadija. So this webinar includes VISTAs from several different PSOs. So let's take a moment to see where everyone is serving. In the upper left corner of the screen is an icon that looks like a pencil. Click on that to see the annotation tools on the left side, on the left side of your screen. If you click on the arrow tool, you can use it to click on the map to point to where you are serving at the Vista. You might want to make the slide full screen, and you can do this by clicking on the double arrows in the top right area of the screen so you can more easily see where others are located. It seems like we have a pretty broad range of where everyone is in the country.
Wow, yeah. Nice.
Pretty cool.
That's
the East Coast.
This is actually honestly my favorite little activity. It's so cool to see where everyone's serving.
Mm-hmm. Well, whether you're geographically close to other VISTAs or not, know that you are not alone. We have VISTAs serving in all 50 states and U.S. territories who are a resource for you. And later in the session, we'll show you how you can find other VISTAs by using the Vista map and other features of the Vista campus. Oh, and by the way, if you switched your slide view to full screen, you may want to switch it back so that you can participate in the other activities that will be coming up.
All right, thanks, Ann. This webinar is focused on the professional development of Vista members. All of you recently completed your pre-service orientation, which introduced you to the Vista program, to concepts of poverty and theories of change, as well as touching on some skills that you'll need during your Vista service. You've also been engaged in learning the specifics of your Vista role and the site where you'll be serving through on-site orientation and training. As these formal trainings wind down, you'll need to think about what comes next. Even when you finish PSO and on-site training, your learning as a Vista is not over. First, let's revisit one of the most important tools. Your responsibilities as a Vista are outlined in the Vista Assignment Description, or VAD. During PSO, you reviewed your VAD and began to think about what it'll take to accomplish it. You and your supervisor will likely come up with additional activities to support the achievement of your objectives and to capitalize on your unique strengths. So your VAD may be refined somewhat in the coming weeks.
All right, we want to hear from you guys again, and this time we're going to use the chat feature. If you don't see the chat panel on the right side of your screen, open it now by clicking on the chat icon in the upper right corner. Use the chat panel to share what skills you will need to accomplish your VAD. During PSO, you looked at what's in your VISTA assignment description, or VAD, and whether your VAD includes fundraising, volunteer recruitment, community engagement, or event management. It's likely there are things that you haven't done before. So you'll need to learn how to do them, and to learn them, you'll need a plan. Okay, so I see a few coming in: asset mapping, partnership building, lots of fundraising,
public speaking, learning how to write a grant, pitching, financial literacy, volunteer recruitment.
Observational skills.
Nice, nice. All right, let's see. Project development, translation, web design.
Cool. Lots of networking, community engagement.
Nice. So a lot of these are topics that we're actually going to be covering in today's webinar, so
yeah,
you're in luck.
Lots of luck. So your VAD forms the foundation of your work plan, so you'll want to explore it thoroughly. Start by meeting with your supervisor to review your VAD and develop measurable milestones and deliverables. Take notes and write down any areas that need clarification so you fully understand your assignment. Keep your VAD handy so that you can refer back to it periodically to track your progress. And as you get further into service, you and your VISTA supervisor may come up with additional activities to capitalize on your strengths. So your VAD may evolve somewhat from the original version. Your VISTA supervisor is the person to answer questions about the VAD, its time frame, and other aspects of your assignment.
During PSO, as you looked at your VAD, you also began identifying the knowledge and skills you'll need to accomplish it. An individual development plan is a great tool for capturing this and identifying specific learning activities you can undertake. If you've started a plan during PSO and have it handy, take a look at it right now. If you don't have one, you can download a copy from the Vista Campus. The link is posted in the chat panel. Think of your individual development plan as the bridge between your VAD and actually accomplishing your goals. You may know where you want to end up, but the individual development plan allows you to plot your path with concrete action steps for getting there. Now that you're thinking about some areas where you'd like to build your skills, let's take a look at some of the ways that you can go about your professional development. We're going to walk through 4 main areas of learning that are useful for most VISTAs, and for each, we will show you resources on the campus and beyond to guide your learning in this area. And we'll look at the ways you can connect with other VISTAs on those subjects.
I should share the legal fine print. We're going to show you a number of websites and resources that may be helpful, but just because we mention them, that doesn't mean that they're endorsed by the VISTA program or the Corporation for National and Community Service. You'll want to figure out what and which resources are right for you. To help you follow along with the presentation and avoid having to write down all of the resources we mentioned, there's a handout that you can actually download that lists the resources we'll be mentioning. You can download a list of resources that are mentioned in this session from the link that we just posted in the chat.
All right, so you've been a VISTA for just a few weeks now, but you need to know the ins and outs of VISTA service. You learned a lot of it before you started service, but there's plenty more to know. So let's use the raise hand feature, another feature of WebEx. It's located at the bottom of the participant panel in the upper right corner of the screen. So if you know the answer to the question, I want you to click Raise Hand. How many sick days and how many personal days off do you get as a VISTA? Click Raise Hand if you know the answer.
Okay, while it calculates.
Looking like a lot of people know the answer. All right. And for those of you who don't, you're going to want to look at the VISTA member handbook. You can now put your hands down.
One of the first steps as you're getting settled is to read the VISTA member handbook. It details the policies of the VISTA program and outlines the process for requesting assistance. It has answers to questions like how many personal days you get, 10, and the handbook is located on the Vista campus in the section called Life as a Vista.
Next, get to know the organization where you're serving. Dive into some documents that lay the foundation for your organization, including their strategic plan, mission, and vision. If there have been vistas at your site before, review their accomplishments through past quarterly reports, which your supervisor can probably share with you. Meet with people in various departments to learn about their roles and how you might work together. These contacts are also likely to have connections in the community that could be very helpful to your service. All right, so since we're on a webinar, let's take advantage of another of the features that WebEx has to offer. We'd like to hear from you once again. On the right is a poll about the frequency you meet with your supervisor. And when I say this, I'm talking about a formal meeting, meaning that both of you actually schedule time and are having a meeting to discuss various things, not just talking about, answering a question in passing or having an impromptu 5-minute check-in. So please take a moment to answer the question. How frequently do you formally meet with your supervisor? Is it A, multiple times each week, B, once a week, C, once every 2 weeks, D, about once a month, or E, I have not yet set up formal meetings with my supervisor? Like we got about 15 seconds left in the time. Be sure to click submit once you've selected your answer as well. All right, so we're going to let that tabulate.
What's the answer? There we go.
All right, so it looks like most people answered B, once a week. We've got 59 out of 176 of you, or 34% of you, that are meeting once a week. And then I think next up, A, is multiple times each week, so this is a pretty good sign here. But right after that, we've got 12% of you who have not yet set up a formal meeting. So I know that schedules are, can be pretty busy with meetings and site visits, activities, and all of the other things that VISTA service entails. And it can be a real challenge to sit down and have an actual meeting. But one of the biggest elements of the VISTA member success, both personally and professionally, is good supervisor and good member-supervisor relationship. So we want you to have the adequate support that you need as you continue to grow and learn, and we also want you to do your part to ensure that your supervisor and the organization know about your challenges and accomplishments. So while we're talking about supervisors, let's chat for a bit about what to do if your supervisor isn't providing you the support that you need. There may be times when a situation with a supervisor is too challenging for you to manage on your own. For example, if you feel your supervisor might be treating you unfairly or harassing you, if your supervisor is for some reason unavailable and you don't know when you'll see them again, or maybe there's so many supervisors that you can't really get any decisions made on your project. If you have a challenge that's preventing you from having a successful VISTA service experience, there are some resources that you can turn to. If your project has a VISTA leader, you can approach your leader for general advice, problem solving, and can help facilitate difficult conversations. Your CNCS state office can also assist you with any issues you might have relating to how your VISTA project is being managed, its ability to attain its goals, or any issue that cannot be resolved by your supervisor. They can also intervene if you are not receiving supervision. If the things you are being asked are maybe very different from what is in your VAD, or if your tasks aren't capacity building, or maybe you're replacing a staff member, and if you encounter discrimination or harassment. Of course, you can also turn to other Vistas, either at your project or across the country for advice and support. And we have a webinar that digs deep into supervisor issues and how to manage them. This webinar is called Managing Up, Navigating the Vista Supervisor Relationship. An on-demand version is available on the webinars page of the Vista Campus. All right, so I've just added 2 more life hacks here: regular meetings with your supervisor and getting additional support when you need it.
As we saw a little earlier, your VAD likely has a lot of tasks outlined for you. So you'll be working on a number of different things over the year of your Vista service term. So let's talk about how you can keep track of what it is you're doing and the progress that you're making so that you can report on it later on. To help make this easier for you, the Vista program created a mobile reporting tool that you can use in the office and out in the community.
When you're busy working in the community, it can be easy to forget to track all the great work you're doing. You won't know how much progress you're making unless you track your work and keep good records of it. The Vista Impact Reporting tool allows you to track your activities using your smartphone, tablet, or computer. Keeping a log of your activities and successes will not only help you and your supervisor when reports are due, but will also help you build a clear record of your achievements to reference after you finish your service. The Vista Impact tool is available exclusively through the Vista Campus. You won't find it in the App Store or the Play Store. From the Vista Campus, it's easy to add to the home screen of your phone or tablet. And if you want to know more about how to use this convenient tool, there's also an on-demand webinar for that. You'll find that on the campus under Life as a Vista.
Okay, let's hear from you guys again. Now that you've been on your project for at least a couple of weeks, has anything popped up that makes you nervous about your VAD? Maybe you're worried about being asked to do something that is beyond your current skill set. Maybe the tasks outlined seem too big. Is there anything that we could provide that will alleviate this nervousness? On the flip side of that, we also want to know what you're excited about in your VAD. Is there anything that you're working on or gearing up to work on that you're particularly passionate about? We always love hearing about the wonderful work that you guys are doing, so please let us know. We'll give you a few minutes to share your ideas. I know for me, when I first saw my VAD, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to accomplish all of this in a year? Mine was kind of full of lofty goals, but I was excited to help build the capacity of the neighborhood that I was working in. I see a few. There's some who are saying, I feel like my VAD keeps changing, my VAD's extremely vague.
Nervous about holding trainings, not disappointing your site, talking to officials to gain locations, clearly laid out, very lengthy.
Okay. Alexandra gets to design billboards.
Wow, so these are all really valid concerns. And
one thing I will say for the individuals who are saying that their VAD is pretty vague, ask your supervisor if you can see a copy of the project application. This is the application that they used to get approved to have a Vista, and usually they will have the goals listed out that they hope to achieve with a Vista, and that might help you and your supervisor narrow down a couple of things or tasks for you to have a successful Vista year.
yeah, I would say many of you identified specific skills or knowledge areas where you realize that you need to know more in order to be effective in carrying out your VAD. And it's likely that some of these things aren't things that you've done before, but that's okay. This will give you the opportunity to learn something new. This is a really actually great segue to the next 3 topics, which relate to the kinds of things that many Vista members are responsible for. So we already looked at some life hacks to make your service easier. Now let's move on to look at the other 3 areas that relate to many Vista assignments. We'll start with community outreach. This can encompass quite a lot, including general communications, social media, as well as direct face-to-face outreach. We'll show you some campus resources, some resources beyond the campus, as well as some peer resources from other Vistas. There are several Vista Campus resources that dig into capacity building, which is essential to community development work, and one that helps you challenge your own assumptions, and that's called Not Always What You Think.
There's an interactive tool on community building called the 5 Cs that looks at community, connections, control, cash, and collective action. And then the last resource listed here, Strengthening Your Organization, Your Community, and Your Projects, shows you how to build your program sustainability by deepening your ties to the surrounding community. Use the faceted search feature on the Vista campus to narrow down the results to get to the resources and tutorials that best meet your needs. Also on the Vista campus, there are a number of on-demand webinar topics related to outreach that you can watch at your convenience. Here are just a few. So the Writing Powerful Impact Statements webinar shares how to tell a compelling story of what your project is doing and how to engage others in your project. The Planning a Social Media Campaign for Your Project webinar guides you in developing a social media plan through setting realistic goals and examining components of social media and implementing it. And then finally, building a professional network for service and career. As part of your personal and professional development, you will need to develop partnerships, interact with many people, and engage the community. You can use this webinar to leverage networks for professional success and social impact during and after your service. We typically offer webinars every month, so there are plenty of opportunities to learn. To access live and on-demand webinars on the Vista campus, you can go to the Connect and Learn tab and click on Webinars. We're also going to be sending you email notices so you'll know what's coming up. Be sure to register for the webinar in advance and add it to your calendar so you won't end up with scheduling conflicts.
In addition to the resources created by the Vista program, there is information and advice from other Vista members available through the Vista campus. First is the discussion forums. For example, there's a thread called Getting Information to Program Clients in the forum, You and the Work. This one looks at ways of reaching out to clients and potential clients of a program. The best way to stay connected through the forums is to subscribe to each forum that interests you. Another way to get automatically subscribed is to reply to a post. We'll show you how to do that in just a bit. Another section of the campus contains materials created by Vista leaders as part of the Action Learning Challenge. It's called the Team Products page. In the area of community outreach is a guide to gaining community buy-in for your Vista project. This highlights the 9 best practices for successful community participation.
Looking beyond the Vista campus, here is a fantastic resource developed by the University of Kansas. The Community Toolbox is a free online resource for those working to build healthier communities and bring about social change. It offers thousands of pages of tips and tools for taking action in communities. Whether it's community assessment, planning, evaluation, or advocacy, the Community Toolbox has something to offer among its 300 educational modules and other free tools. It is currently available in English, Spanish, and Arabic. It includes extensive readings on community building, toolkits, a troubleshooting guide, and a database of best practices. They even offer Ask an Advisor, where you can submit a question to their panel of experts or browse answers to other people's questions.
Here are some other resources outside of Vista that might interest you. To connect to others working in the community, look for a chapter of a young nonprofit professionals network in your area, or YNPN. YNPN can be a great place to network, and some of them offer learning opportunities and social events as well. The Building Movement Project has put together a handbook on community engagement. They call it the NICE Guide, Nonprofits Integrating Community Engagement. and it really is nice. In terms of online courses, here is just a sampling of a few examples. Allison has a free course on encouraging diverse community involvement. Coursera offers one on integrating marketing communications that looks at how to communicate effectively with various audiences that could help your outreach efforts. Your supervisor may also have recommendations for additional training you can take related to your VAD.
Now, let's move from community outreach to volunteer mobilization to see what kind of resources might advance your service in this area. Whether it's a big part of your VAD or an occasional need for special events, you may have a need to engage volunteers in what you're doing. Fortunately, there's a lot available on this. The Vista Campus has an entire section on volunteer management with a range of resources. Vista also offers a 10-week online course in volunteer mobilization that you can earn college credit recommendation from the American Council on Education. And there are related resources in other areas of the campus. So a quick search will turn up more. For example, there's a resource on engaging volunteers in fundraising events.
As you might have guessed, there are a number of on-demand webinars related to volunteer mobilization that you can watch at your convenience. Here are just a few. High-impact volunteer recruitment. This teaches you how to recruit the best volunteers for your project. There's also building sustainability into a volunteer program, which shows you how to anticipate volunteer expectations and then build relationships that enhance volunteer engagement. Or you might like creating group volunteer opportunities that engage and inspire. In this, you can learn how to plan a group volunteer project to engage community volunteers and attract them to your project. Again, all of these can be accessed live and on-demand webinars on the webinars page of the Vista Campus.
The campus also has information and advice from other Vista members. The discussion forums on the campus have a lot of posts about volunteers. For example, there's a thread called Volunteer Record Keeping that discusses the pros and cons of various databases and software packages to manage volunteer data. Another thread looks at the ways of getting volunteers that will stick around. And there's so many others. So I encourage you to use the search feature in the forums to see what your colleagues have shared. And be sure to weigh in and add your own voice. The Action Learning Team products page has a really fantastic guide to National Days of Service project ideas that provides instructions, planning timelines, and templates for planning and implementing successful community volunteer projects for National Days of Service.
Looking outside the VISTA program, there are many places to find information on volunteer management. First, look for a local volunteer managers group in your area. There are local associations, sometimes called DOVIAs, Directors of Volunteers and Agencies, that offer regular meetings, trainings, and networking opportunities. At the national level, there's a group called ALIVE, the Association of Leaders in Volunteer Engagement. If there's not a group in your area, or if you simply prefer online interaction, there's a wealth of online communities and discussion sites for volunteer managers.
Of course, you will find a wealth of learning resources on the internet as well. Energize Inc. has the most comprehensive collection of resources on volunteer management. There are professional development resources, tools related to career advancement, like links to online communities, and a directory of local volunteer manager groups. Volunteer Match offers more than just a powerful volunteer recruitment site. They also offer free webinars on a range of volunteer management topics, books and resources, and a volunteer management blog. Points of Light offers an annual conference on volunteering and service, recognition programs like the Daily Point of Light Award, and the President's Volunteer Service Award, and the volunteer recruitment site, All for Good. The Council for Certification in Volunteer Administration offers a professional credential for those in the field of volunteer administration, along with a textbook and a pathway for achieving it. They publish the professional ethics in volunteer management that can serve as a guide for all those working with volunteers. And then Everyone Ready It's an online volunteer management skill building program featuring some of the best known names in volunteer management from around the world. It's not free, but many larger organizations have subscriptions, so you might want to find a partner with access to this resource, or even talk to your supervisor. Your site might have partnerships with them.
All right, so this brings us to the fourth area we want to explore, and that is resource development. Vistas are capacity builders, and of course one of the most common ways they build capacity is to generate financial resources for the organization or the community. Beyond your Vista service, knowing how to raise money is a great skill to have, and if you plan to work in the nonprofit sector, this will come especially handy for you. The Vista Campus has an entire section on resource development with resources related to grant writing, fundraising, and special events. The tutorial on researching grants is a great introduction to finding funding opportunities. Vista also offers a 10-week online course in resource development for which you can earn 3 college credit recommendations.
We also have live and on-demand webinars related to resource development that you can watch at your convenience. There's creating an online fundraising strategy, writing winning proposals, advice from an experienced grant reviewer, and a webinar on how to find funding opportunities. Remember, register in advance. Your fellow Vistas have shared lots of information and advice on fundraising and grant writing through the campus forums. There's a great thread called Fundraising Ideas where Vistas are sharing just that, ideas for a fundraising event. Others look at donor tracking software like Salesforce and a compilation of grant-related resources. These are just a few examples, and like I've mentioned a lot, you can use the forum search to find what else is there.
There are plenty of places beyond the campus to find information on resource development. Those of you who see yourself in the resource development field should check out the Association for Fundraising Professionals website and explore the professional development section. It includes everything from conferences and leadership training to executive institutes and certification. The American Grant Writers Association publishes the professional standards and code of ethics for grant writers. They also offer a free newsletter and fee-based online courses and workshops. There are also many local networks for grant writers, so see if there's one in your area. It could be a good way to meet others in your field as well. And of course, you will find a wealth of learning resources online as well. For example, the Foundation Center and Grantsmanship Center offer a trove of information about private foundations, corporate giving programs, government grants, and other funding sources. They have online learning resources, trainings, and databases of funders. Some of the resources are by paid subscription, but there are definitely plenty of free ones available. GrantSpace is a service of the Foundation Center that offers free and paid training and online learning resources.
So now it's your turn to share professional development resources that you would recommend to your fellow Vistas. Again, please use the chat panel to post your suggestions. Have you found a free course or online resource that was especially helpful? Is there an affinity group or professional organization that you think resonates especially well with your Vista service? What was that one TED Talk you saw that you think everyone should watch? One of my favorites is Margaret Hefferman's Dare to Disagree. The local university library.
Oh yeah, all about that. Public library.
edX.
I hosted a community college. They're offering continuing ed courses I'll have access to. This is awesome. Meetups, nonprofit ready.
At a TED Talk, Danger of the One Story by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
That is a really good one. The Art of Asking TED Talk. That old internet. You're right about that, Sam. Google. I'm loving this
See Allison. There's also Coursera or Linda.
Chat with your Vista leader.
Yeah, if you have a Vista leader, they're always a great source of information. The book Scarcity.
Other Vistas I met at PSO? Oh, yeah.
Always a great source. So these are really great suggestions so far. Please continue to share while we take a look at a few more sources of learning.
All right, so we've talked a lot about specific sites and resources, and we want to give you a few more. Even with all of the online resources available today, like some of you mentioned, brick-and-mortar public libraries are still such a valuable learning site. All you need is a library card, especially. Many local libraries have access to online databases and grant-writing resources. Librarians are usually pretty well versed in the latest digital trends and resources as well. Plus, many libraries offer free access to audiobooks, ebooks, movies, music, and a ton more. Not to mention, libraries often have community bulletin boards that you have access to, and you can post notices for volunteers and community meetings, and maybe even find, a recreational or social opportunity for yourself. So be sure to check them out.
The U.S. Census Bureau, yes, the Census Bureau, offers free webinars on a range of topics related to using census data to better understand communities. Whether it's looking at education and income levels in various neighborhoods or understanding who's living in your county or state, these webinars offer insights and allow you to conduct your own research based on your interests. And these were really helpful for me when I was a Vista. I did a lot of grant writing, and there were two webinars, one called the Using Data to Apply for a Grant, and then the other one, the Measuring America series, that really just helped me write my grants.
Yeah, and at the local level, you can get valuable information on community needs and, their services that they have available and other details about the social service landscape, from organizations like your local United Way or Volunteer Center or even the Chamber of Commerce. And some of these organizations offer trainings, and some of them free, as well as networking opportunities. So find out what's available to you in your community.
And you can also carefully turn to the internet for free courses. Many of you mentioned sites like Coursera, the Khan Academy, Allison, and Linda that provide free online courses. More specific to the nonprofit world are sites like Nonprofit Ready, with dozens of free online courses in everything from project management to nonprofit accounting. The Alliance for Nonprofit Management and Free Management Library offer free and inexpensive articles, reports, handbooks, and resources on a range of topics related to the nonprofit work.
Wow, and so I think they get the idea.
Yeah.
There are so many great resources out there, and no matter what topic you're interested in, you'll be able to find something on it. But we want to bring your attention back to the VISTA program for more tailored input into what you are doing specifically. As we mentioned, your fellow VISTA members, leaders, and supervisors are a great source of information about what works in the VISTA context. So don't be afraid to reach out to them.
And you can connect with other Vistas through the Vista Campus. Fill out your project area and interests in your campus user profile and add a photo. Interact on the campus forums or use the map to find Vistas and alumni in your area. Vista alumni are often happy to help current Vistas get started. And you can connect with the Vista program and other Vistas through social media like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Share your photos of service and tag @AmeriCorps Vista.
All right, so whether you've been using LinkedIn or not, now is the time to create or update your profile. Within LinkedIn, search for AmeriCorps Vista and go to our company page and click Follow. This will ensure that our curated job search advice updates show up on your feed. So to create or update your LinkedIn profile, post your service year under Experience. Select AmeriCorps Vista as the company. The AmeriCorps Vista logo will automatically populate the image field. If you want, you can create a second entry listing your sponsoring organization as the company. Make sure to include AmeriCorps Vista in your title.
All right, and make sure to identify yourself as a Vista by putting the Vista logo in your email signature and on your business card. You can see a couple of examples here on the slide. Make sure your organization's website, your social media platforms, brochures, or other communication mentions that Vista is powering your program, and wear that Vista polo shirt with pride. The handout for the session contains links where you can get your Vista logos, business card templates, and a free poster to use to decorate your office and represent Vista in the field. And if you want, you can order more Vista gear at the National Service Gear Store, which is listed there as well.
During PSO, you developed your minute message, a short speech about your organization and your role as a Vista. Make sure to rehearse it often so that it comes easily to you and you can explain quickly what you do. There are plenty of resources on the Vista campus that can teach you about creating these messages. So we've mentioned a number of resources and features that are on the Vista campus that will help you stay connected and informed. And now we'll hear from our expert on the Vista campus, and this is Scott Weinrow. He's going to help us out, and he's going to show us how to access some of the features we mentioned during this presentation.
Well, thank you, Khadijah, and hi, everyone. It's really nice to be with you today, and I'm glad to have a chance to talk with you a little bit more about some of the kind of more hidden features, I guess, of the Vista campus. So the campus was designed to be easy to navigate. At least we hope you'll find it pretty easy to navigate. I wanted to highlight some of the areas that I think will have the resources that you'll be most interested in. There's the Life as a Vista section, and you'll all have already explored this to an extent when you started service and went to the Starting Vista page and the Benefits Hub and so on. There's also the work that has curated and collected resources on the different areas you'll be focusing on as you go through your service and work on your VAD. And then I'm also going to talk a bit about some resources and some tools and features that you'll find in the Connect and Learn section of the campus. So earlier, the Vista Impact Reporting tool was mentioned, and I just want to show you briefly how to find that. It's in the Life as a Vista section. Under In-Service, there's a link to the Impact Reporting tool. That has information about the tool, and then from there there's a link that will take you right to the website so you can use that reporting tool. As mentioned, even though you may hear or see this referred to as an app in some places, it's not actually an app that you have to download from an app store. It's just a website that was designed to be particularly mobile friendly, but it'll work on any platform, phone or tablet or a desktop computer. And one nice thing about it is that even though it'll look like a separate website, it uses the same user database as the campus. So when you go there, you can log in just with your campus username and password. You won't have to create new credentials for the Impact reporting tool. So another feature of the campus that I wanted to highlight briefly is your learning plan. And you'll find that linked from the campus homepage when you're logged in. You'll also find it under this little drop-down menu under your name in the upper right corner of the screen. So if you click on Learning Plan, you'll see that there are three sections of the Learning Plan. There's Required Learning, which has the Starting Vista page, all of the required pre-service coursework and forms that you did before you actually got started with your PSO. There's Suggested Learning, and that's a mix of some resources that are automatically suggested to any Vista when they first create an account on the campus, resources that we think will really be useful for anyone who's serving as a Vista, as well as suggested resources that are suggested by your Learning Connections. And I'll come back to that in a moment when I talk a little bit more about Learning Connections. And finally, there's favorite content, and this is really a feature that we built with the goal of letting you easily bookmark resources so that you can come back to them later. So the campus is really a kind of rich repository of different resources let me show you, we have a particularly powerful search engine. So I heard from a colleague that there was an on-demand webinar that was really good on tailoring your resume to your Vista service. So I'm going to search for resume, and there's really a lot here, so I'm going to filter down a little bit. I know that it's a recorded webinar, so I'm going to filter down to that format. And then I'm going to scan, and this sounds like the one that I heard about. So translating Vista service to your resume and career. It's a recorded webinar, so it runs about an hour or so. I start watching it, and it's interesting, but I have to go and do something else, so I want to come back to it later. Rather than having to go through that process of finding it again, what I can do is add it to my learning plan, and then the next time I go back to my learning plan, that resource will be bookmarked, so I can easily go back and finish watching it. I also mentioned learning connections, and let me briefly show you all how to make learning connections so that you can suggest resources to each other. Learning connections also can use an internal messaging system within the campus to send messages one-to-one. So you'll find the links to the Learning Connections page in a couple of places, but the easiest way is from anywhere on the site. When you're logged in, it will appear as a link under Connect and Learn. So once that page loads, you can actually search for people by name, or you can filter down by subject area. So let's say that I want to connect with my supervisor, who happens to be named Celia Supervisor. I search for her, and there she is. All I have to do is click this little plus sign, and if I were to click send, it would send Celia a connection request. Once she accepts that request, then we've made a learning connection. At that point, I can suggest resources to her. There was another button that you may have seen on each resource that lets you suggest a resource to a learning connection, or vice versa. Your learning connections can also suggest resources to you, and that they will also appear on the learning plan. And then, as mentioned, you can also message your learning connections. So that's another nice feature. Another way that you can connect is through the Vista map. So if you want to find other Vistas or leaders or alumni in your area, you can go to the Vista map, which, as you saw, is also under Connect and Learn. You can zoom in, and as you zoom in, you can click on any pin, and then in the same way that you saw through Learning Connections, click the plus sign to send a connection request to that person. And once they accept, then you're connected with them. So finally, I want to show one other thing that was mentioned, the Vista forums. And these are another really great way to connect with people, but also to share information and share what you're doing and what you're learning in your Vista service, and to hear what others are doing. So there's forums for Vistas, for supervisors, and for leaders. If you click on the Vista forums, you get a number of different topic areas. Probably the most popular one, kind of a catch-all, is the Vista Cafe. And as long as you're logged in, you can add a new forum topic. Or if you find an existing thread that you want to comment on, again, as long as you're logged in, you can always add a comment to any forum thread. So with that, thank you all, and let me go ahead and turn things back to Khadijah and Ann.
Thank you so much for the tour of the Vista campus, Scott. It's so helpful to see where the various resources are housed and to learn how to use the various interactive tools. If you're not sure what you should do next on the campus, here are a few ideas. You can visit the work section to explore the resources there, add a resource to your learning plan so you can easily find it later, and then you can also connect with other Vistas using the Learning Connections discussion forums and the Vista map. Now we'd like to hear from you guys again. We covered a lot of information today. What is one next step that you can take today after this webinar ends? Maybe it's bookmarking the member handbook on your learning plan, looking for an online course, or searching for the next community association meeting. What are your ideas? Share them in the chat panel now. Following up on some of the sites that were suggested, looking at the campus forums.
more webinars on the site, grant writing websites, networking with Vistas in Tucson.
Getting familiar with the campus.
Making a list of all the info given to go back to later. More connections, classes, update my LinkedIn profile, networking. Oh yeah, business cards with the Vista logo. I'm seeing so much networking with other Vistas. I love it. LinkedIn, 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 classes, classes, classes.
Hi, Miriam.
The forum seemed really helpful. Nice. All right. This is some good to know. Logo.
Online training and networking with fellow Vistas.
All right, so I'm seeing a lot of people posting about the business cards, and just to remind you all, there are templates for the business cards available on the campus. All right, so this is some really good stuff you're sharing. I'm super excited about all of this. But in addition to these things that you've shared, here are some immediate next steps that you can take today. First, use this webinar and the Vista Campus to enhance and identify some professional development goals and share those with your supervisor. If you don't have a regular meeting scheduled with your supervisor, I'd reach out to them and probably schedule one. Yeah.
You can also identify one resource, an on-demand webinar, a self-paced course, or a helpful video to add to your learning plan on the Vista Campus.
Also, research a professional organization in your current field or in a field that interests you, and investigate a typical career path in that area while looking at online trainings, webinars, resources, and other learning opportunities.
Finally, identify at least one free learning resource that may help guide you in your service. The handout for this session includes the links to the examples we mentioned. We've given you a lot to think about, and I'm sure that you have some questions. But before we start the Q&A session, we want your feedback on this presentation. You should now see an evaluation poll on the right side of your screen. Please take the time to answer the questions in the poll. We like to be able to improve these webinars, and your input is super, super helpful to us. And while you're completing the evaluation, we'll start the Q&A portion of the session.
All right, so I know that a lot of you are very eager to ask us questions, and now it's time for just that. You can ask a question using the Q&A panel located in the right of your screen. To reopen the Q&A panel, click on the small triangle next to the letters Q&A, just below the evaluation poll panel. At this time, I'm going to ask our operator to let us know how to ask a question via phone.
If you would like to ask a question on the phone lines, please press *1 and record your name when prompted. If you hear your question and wish to withdraw it, please press *2. Once again, that's *1 and record your name.
All right, let's look at the Q&A and see what we've got in there.
All right, so I'm seeing a lot of questions about this webinar being accessible. So this webinar will not be able to be accessed today, but in about a week, you will receive an email with a link to the recorded webinar.
All right. If my organization is open on Labor Day, will I have to be there? So the answer to that question is yes, Bella. You get all of the holidays that your site takes. If you want to take off Monday, you would have to use one of your personal days if your site has to work that day. How can I get more information on writing out grants step by step and becoming more developed? Well, definitely I would check out the resource development course that we mentioned earlier. I believe that registration is still open, at least for the fall, or maybe it's closing soon, and it'll be opening up for the next session soon, but definitely check that out. And then also some of the other resources and on-demand webinars that we talk about have a little bit more information.
There's also the Foundation Center and the Grantsmanship Center that offer a ton of information about corporate giving and government grants and other funding sources, and I'll post those two names in the chat.
Oh, and thank you, Brittany. It closes on the 3rd, so you still have some time to register. Okay. Stephanie asks, is it normal that I don't have a time card? Yeah, if your site doesn't need you to record your time in and time out, you're good.
Can the webinar slides be available sooner than 1 week? I'm so sorry, David, but I do not believe that is the case. You should receive an email in a week with the link to the recorded webinar.
And Khadijah, this is Scott. Let me just add, there is a recording of a previous session of this webinar currently up on the campus and the Vista Webinars page. If you want to go there and search for planning your professional development, we vary it a little bit each time, but the recording that's up there now is pretty close. So if you're really eager, and particularly if you want to get a hold of the resources that were discussed today, those are all posted from that page in the Vista Webinars section of the campus.
Let's see, what other questions do we have? Are there any questions on the phone?
I'm showing no phone questions.
Thank you. Are there any good resources for data vistas? Sarah, I would check out the forum, and if you use the search feature, you can look that up. There are a couple of good threads about data and different programs you can use.
Let's see. Will my attendance in this webinar be recorded? Yes. So we do have our attendance log for this webinar.
After our service is over, will we still be able to access the Vista Campus for resources? Yes. You'll have access for, I don't want to say forever, but you'll have access once you're done.
Yeah, there's a pretty thorough Life After Vista section and an alumni section as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. How do you take and track your sick and vacation days? I also have jury duty. What do I do? It depends on your state and your site. So I know for me, I served in the state of Maryland, and what they had us do was we had these request forms that we had to use that our supervisor had to sign, and then we sent to the state office. I would check with your corporation state office. And if you don't know which state manages your project, ask your supervisor. They should know.
Do we have any questions on the phone?
I am showing no phone questions.
All right, we will continue with our Q&A then. Does this webinar count for college credit? At PSO, they said some will. Which ones will?
That is the resource development course and the volunteer recruitment course that we talked about earlier in the PSO. I mean, not in the PSO, earlier in the webinar.
All right, let's see.
I saw a question in the chat. Is it common for VISTA alums to work in the federal government after service through NCE status? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty common. I know at our agency, the Corporation for National and Community Service, most people who work here are VISTA alum or Peace Corps alum who use their NCE.
Let's see.
For the questions about fingerprints, if you send an email to vistafingerprint@cns.gov, that's Vista, V-I-S-T-A, fingerprint@cns.gov, we'll be able to answer your question.
I've just posted that email in the chat. All right.
For all the questions about the site holidays and vacation days, I would reach out to your state office for more information.
I'm seeing some questions about fundraising, and there is a thread on the Vista campus called Fundraising Ideas, where Vistas are sharing about, you know, fundraising events and tracking donations and such. So this is, I would say, a really good place to start. There's also the Association for Fundraising Professionals website, and you can explore some professional development in that section as well. And I will post this in the chat.
Are there any questions on the phone?
I am showing no phone questions.
All right, we'll take a couple more questions. I'm seeing a lot about tracking hours. For Vista, you don't track the hours. You're a volunteer for 365 days.
There are, however, some sites that may require you to have a timesheet, and that is specific to your project, so that's something that you would have to speak with your supervisor about. And as far as registering for the 2 courses on the Vista campus, I will post the link to the online courses in the chat, because I do see that there are quite a few questions about that.
For the people who are asking about pay stubs, once you get your first living allowance payment, you should be able to access your statements, and you would access that from my.americorps.gov. That's the website where you applied to be a VISTA and you did a lot of your onboarding work.
All right, do the other webinars have a cap? Are we competing for registration spots? No, all of the webinars are open to as many people as can register, so that is definitely not a rush for you if you are concerned about there being a cap or a ceiling on how many folks can participate. I'm also seeing that some of you are interested in the handout with all of the resources we've mentioned today, and I will post the link for that as well. Let's see what we've got here. Can attending conferences that help with project networking and development be considered paid hours? So yes, the answer is yes, but this is something that you would of course need to talk to your supervisor about. Many of the projects have funds allocated to allow VISTAs to attend trainings and conferences both in and out of their project sites.
For questions about forbearance or other student loan things, you can contact the VMSU at the VMSU@cns.gov or the National Service Hotline.
I'm seeing some of you have not received onboarding training or have set a schedule as to the time or resources that are necessary to complete your assignments. I would contact your state office, and the state office can be contacted by the abbreviation for your state. For example, if you're serving in Texas, TX@C as in Charlie, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam.gov. And so whatever your state is would be the abbreviation at cns.gov for questions that you think are maybe out of your ability to ask your supervisor.
All right, and one last check. Are there any questions on the phone?
Yes, we do have a phone question from Jacobson. Your line is open.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, so to get the most out of my service, I think something I'm really interested in is I would love to learn what some of the VISTAs are doing in their community, some of the problems they're facing. What would some innovative ways be to interact with them and find out kind of what they're facing and some of the issues about poverty or just community service they're having in their jobs and VADs?
Are you speaking specifically about VISTAs in your area or VISTAs overall?
No, actually all around the country. I'd love to learn what they're facing. I mean, it was really interesting to learn some of it at the PSO before going into our VADs, like what they knew they were preparing for. But I think throughout the year, I'd love to learn more about what they're going through and what they're facing.
Sure. I feel like this is a great forum topic. I know that there are a ton of other VISTAs that are interested in this exact thing. I'm not certain that there is one created already. It seems like a pretty popular topic, so I would give that a search. But if not, you can always create a topic yourself to gauge how other VISTAs or even VISTA alum have dealt with this. Would be my first start. And I also know that there are at least some VISTA PSO Facebook groups where folks continue to engage with each other and talk about how their service is going and some of the setbacks and celebrations as well. So those two, I would say, would be really pretty good places. Also, a lot of VISTAs have blogs that they've posted on the internet, whether it be Tumblr or Blogspot or any of those, that would be worth the search as well. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Are there any other questions on the phone?
I'm showing up for the phone questions.
All right.
All right, so I think that we will wrap up here. You've all asked some very, very great questions, and we are super excited about all of the great work that you're going to be doing and that you're already doing. And I know that a lot of these resources that were shared will be of use to you, and I see all of the great things that you've shared in the chat. I know that some of you have already taken a look at the handout. Be sure to check in with some of the folks that are on this webinar. I think that would be a great place to start if you want to stay connected. I know that a lot of you have already been doing that, but this is for sure a great resource, all of these other vistas. So definitely stay in contact with each other.
Yeah, and thank you guys so much again for participating today. You all shared some great resources and ideas for your colleagues to use. I'd also like to thank our production team, Scott and Dave from Education Northwest, and my fellow presenter, Khadija.
Thanks, Anne. All right, so we also have other webinars for Vista member professional development soon. And if you would, you can join us on September 14th for our next webinar, which is Preventing Gender Fender Benders. And watch your inbox for announcements of other upcoming learning opportunities. We hope to see you again. Thanks.
Bye, guys.